Be on a laptop or
she's driving.
we can't get Mike's stored. There we go. Don't need to use them at all. Speak loudly and it'll be fine. We won't have feedback. Commissioner Bloomer, due to technical difficulties, it's your show.
Okay. Okay, everybody ready? You can hear me? Okay, do we need roll call will be in a minute. We'll get this meeting started. It's 9:22 Wednesday, May 13th. Commissioner Bloomer is present, myself, Commissioner Mon is present, and Miles Davidson is sitting in for Commissioner Calvi. Notice of this meeting was properly posted on May 11th, 2020. And it is now May. Commissioner Mon, is it your month to choose our person leading our prayer and our Pledge of Allegiance?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be able to get together and preside over the people's business. We'll ask for your wisdom and guidance as we go through this trying time and knowing what is due to do the best for public safety and conduct people's business. We'll ask for your guiding hand as we go through these difficult decisions. In your name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Mon. Item number 1 is to set a date and time in case we have technical difficulties during our meeting. I will, if no one has any objections, I'll make a motion that we reconvene later this afternoon at 1 p.m.
Second.
So I believe we are still doing roll call. Commissioner Mon.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Aye.
And I will vote aye. Okay, item 2, approval of our minutes from May 4th.
Move the minute.
Second.
Commissioner Mon.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Aye.
And I will vote aye. Our consent agenda, items 3 through 12. Any changes or questions?
Move the consent docket.
Second.
Commissioner Mon.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Aye.
And I will vote aye. Okay, item number 1, item number 13 for District 1 is related to our federal buyout program in the Crutcho area. We are entering phase 7. I believe this is the first buyout in phase 7. Is there someone from the planning department that would like to speak to this item?
Good morning, Commissioner. You're correct. This is the first purchase in phase 7 of the Crutcho buyout. We were able to get a partial reimbursement for phase 6 that allows us forward, and I believe we should see a couple more in the coming weeks.
Any questions or comments?
Move the item.
And I will second, since it's in my district. Commissioner Mon.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Aye.
And I will vote aye. Item number 14, and I can't see if LaDonna is on here. Item 14 is to submit a letter of support from the 3 county commissioners to the OSU extension. They are applying for a grant through the USDA for a local food promotion program called the Northeast Flavor Market. And this letter of support is attached. I do want to make note that Anna has actually given an amended letter to the clerk's office because the dates in the attached letter are incorrect. The dates should read September 30th, 2020 through September 29th, 2023. LaDonna, are you on this call to speak to this at all? Looks like
I'll
she's
move
not.
the item.
Okay, and I will second. Is there any other questions or comments?
Just to be clear, with your amendment.
Thank you. Commissioner Mon.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Aye.
And I will vote aye. Thank you both. Okay, Commissioner Mon, items 15 through 21 are for you.
Yes, just these mutual cooperative agreements for our annual vote, and I would move the one with City of Bethany.
Second.
Commissioner Mon. I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Mon.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Item 16.
Again with Woodlawn Park. Move it.
Second.
Commissioner Mon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Aye.
I will vote aye. Item 17.
Move it with War Acres.
Second.
Commissioner Mon.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Aye.
And I will vote aye. Item 18.
The town of Valley Brook. I'll move the item.
Second.
Commissioner Mon.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Aye.
And I will vote aye. Item 19.
Town of Nakoma Park. I'll move it.
Second.
Commissioner Mon.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Aye.
I will vote aye as well. Item 20,
City of Choctaw, I'll move it.
Second.
Commissioner Mon,
Aye.
Mr. Davidson,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. And lastly, item 21,
The City of Hera, I'll move it.
Second.
Commissioner Mon,
Aye.
Mr. Davidson,
Aye.
and I will vote aye as well. Okay, item 22, Mr. Davidson.
Yes, this is what Ms. Arnall is online to speak to. So if the board would please let her speak, I would appreciate it.
Okay. Ms. Arnall.
Thank you. I wanted to discuss this application that a joint group of organizations have made for a mental health grant from the DOJ. A couple of months ago, North Care approached me and said that they had an opportunity to get a mental health grant for the diversion hub. And we were not going to be able to afford mental health care for our clients for at least a half a year to a year. And so this was really good news to me, and I appreciated North Care mental health. I'm sorry. Oh, and I appreciated them wanting to put mental health in the diversion hub, which will be the clients for the diversion hub, as you all probably know, will be from the jail and from Oklahoma County Courthouse, and also from Oklahoma City Municipal Court. This application, they needed a couple of different sponsors, and it also needed a local matching grant. And so that's where Arnall Family Foundation came in also. And so I recommended North Care go ahead with the grant application and suggested that since we had to get a fiscal sponsor that needed to be a government agency, it didn't matter if it was state, federal, local, we needed a government agency. And so I asked our county commissioners, in particular, Commissioner Bloomer, if she would agree to be the fiscal sponsor or to represent Oklahoma County. They were unable to work through it and didn't realize that Oklahoma County actually has the ability to make a grant application to DOJ. And they weren't also aware of the abilities of Mr. Hooten's office, that they're capable of administering a grant. Instead, they had recommended and had actually submitted an application for the sheriff's office to be the fiscal sponsor. That was not acceptable to me, especially after the forensic audit of the sheriff's office. And also, it didn't make sense with the sheriff moving out of the county jail and just doing law enforcement. That didn't make sense to me. And also, it added another layer of bureaucracy and also more funding we were going to have to make that wouldn't be for mental health services. So with the deadline approaching in a couple of days, actually, I frankly begged Commissioner Calvi if he would help us sort through this and take it on if he thought that the county could make the application. He spoke to Mr. Hooten, and Mr. Hooten said absolutely they had the right. They had the federal application number. They have a long-standing relationship with North Care and trusted them to do all the appropriate work in accounting. And I have a long relationship with North Care, and they are fabulous grant writers, grant implementers, and then they keep incredible backup data on outcomes, which is all necessary for a federal grant, a DOJ grant. And as we utilize best practices and are doing quite a bit for measuring outcomes so we can adjust, and North Care does this, it just seemed better to go with the county commissioners and the county as the fiscal sponsor instead of the sheriff. And I'm trying to explain why there are two applications here, one from the county itself and one from the sheriff. And I will not participate in the application if the sheriff's office makes it, but I will participate since I have to give matching funds if the county makes it, I trust their accounting totally, and I think this would be a good partnership between Arnold Family Foundation, Diversion Hub, the Oklahoma County, and North Care. And so with that, I would ask the commissioners vote yes for this application. It will bring almost $1 million into the county. Portion of that will be from AFF, but it will be completely for mental health care for former detainees and those who have been arrested by Oklahoma County or in Oklahoma County Jail. Thank you.
May I add one thing? Is our office has worked with North Care, has the application ready, and we'll be happy to submit it probably tomorrow, and look forward to the partners.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mon, Miles, do you have any other comments, questions?
I received an email while we were sitting here that Clay Bennett from the Criminal Justice Reform said that he supported this and applauded Ms. Arnold's leadership on that. And I appreciate Ms. Arnold calling me about it. I don't have a problem with it. I'd be happy to move the item.
Second.
I do want to point out that our office did work on this for several weeks with North Care, and we went back and forth with several phone calls between us and North Care, and we worked on it with the available information that we had at the time, and we felt like we did what we could in the best interest of the county. And I'm sorry that the sheriff's office had to get brought into this and then asked to not be a part of it. They have a long history with managing grants from federal grants and grants from BJA. But I think the grant is a really good thing, and I think that it's going to bring some really good mental health care to people coming out of the jail. So obviously I'm going to vote for it, but I do want to stick up for myself and my office, who worked very hard to try to come to agreements with North Care, and we did the best we could. But as it moves forward, I'm supportive of it now. So if there's no other comments or questions, there is a motion and a second. Okay. Commissioner Mon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. Thank you, Ms. Arnold.
Thank you.
Okay, item 23, our assessor's office.
There he is.
This is, morning commissioners, this is a continuation of the contract with one of our vendors on modeling for values of property.
I don't think that mic works. You're going to be.
Speak loudly.
You got it.
I'll speak loudly. The contract is for a continuation of a modeling contract for values for property, and we'd appreciate your approval.
Move the item.
Second.
Okay, no other questions or comments? Commissioner Mon?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. Thank you, Mr. Stein. Okay, item 24, our Emergency Response Committee. I believe they have some recommendations. Are the recommendations I don't think they're attached.
Commissioner, they were forwarded in an email yesterday evening.
Right, I have them. I just want to make sure that if they need to be attached, they can be attached.
Right, I do have copies here for the clerk's office.
Motion to accept the document.
Second.
Commissioner Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
Aye.
And I will vote aye as well.
You want to discuss
They didn't approve it.
No.
Just accept.
it? It's just accepted and done.
Right,
right.
Well, thank you, Commissioners. I think at the onset, I want to thank the members of the committee. We have worked tirelessly, and they have been extremely dedicated to this. When this situation first came upon us, we were meeting twice a day, 5 days a week. We were doing 10 meetings a week. We backed that down to 3 days per week, and we have continued on a schedule of 3 days per week since that time. So there's countless staff hours involved in this. Mr. Blau, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Davidson, and Mr. Matthews, and Cody Compton and Charles Dodson also assisted as alternates on a couple of occasions. But we've also received guidance and input from multiple elected officials' offices and staff members, Presiding Judge Elliott, Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Taylor, District Attorney's Office, and Mr. Prater, and Mr. Monroe is to be certainly congratulated and thanked for he and his staff have been instrumental at Oklahoma County in helping us maintain a tremendous record during this particular event. I believe there's only 2 positive cases in the entire Oklahoma County family associated with the facilities here, courthouse, all facilities combined, and that is phenomenal. And a great deal that's because of the additional efforts through Mr. Monroe and his staff and additional staff that were brought on to clean and sanitize extremely diligently. Everywhere you go in the facility, you'll see people actually working on that. And I also like to thank the County Clerk's Office, Mr. Hooten and his staff, who have helped with the meetings and moving this forward. I'd like to touch base on the key elements of this and recommendations, specific recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners under the guise that these are intended to help provide a safe and efficient reopening of Oklahoma County downtown campuses and other facilities, both for our employees and for our customers. Significant concern factors, aside from the obvious spread of virus and the issues that are related to that, are pedestrian traffic, both the volume of pedestrian traffic and the flow of pedestrian traffic in the Oklahoma County facilities, and particularly the downtown complex, as court activities pick up on Monday, public activities pick up on Monday, expecting a resurgence of employees to the facility. So traffic and both volume and flow are significant issues. We respectfully make the following recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners. Continued encouragement for telecommuting and or staggering of the workforce and or associated schedules. Many departments are doing that currently, and it has proved quite effective in recent months. Continued emphasis on staying home if ill or experiencing or exhibiting CDC-recognized signs or symptoms of COVID-19 or coronavirus. Provide ADA-related accommodations or assistance as necessary or as requested in reference to the following recommendations. That's specific because the following recommendations have to do with traffic flow, congestion, those type of things in the facility. So ADA accommodations and assistance will be provided there. Modification of annex and courthouse access as follows. Annex north doorway to be used for customers only. Annex west doorway to be reopened and used for exit only. West alley gate to be used for employee entry. East courthouse doorway to be reopened and used for courthouse access. And west courthouse doorway to be reopened and used for exit only. Again, a lot of these considerations are traffic flow and the congregating of large numbers of people in small areas, confined areas, etc. Next item is the freight elevator in the annex to be repurposed to include employee use, limited to no more than 4 persons, and those persons need to be wearing masks, obviously. Scaffolding incorporated to protect pedestrian traffic in the alley from the west gate and at the east courthouse entry. We had concerns as we're moving people outdoors to come into alternative entries, protection from adverse weather, elements, those type of things. So as you've seen on construction sites, including on the east side of ICB not long ago, scaffolding is erected and there are walk boards and other protective measures above that to protect from overhead.
Next item is continuation of public elevator guidance in the annex and courthouse, which is 2 persons per elevator car at a time. PBA, which is 2 persons in the metro parking and 1 in the annex tunnel, and ICB elevators, which are both extremely small. Use of recommended signage, 2 different signs to be widely distributed throughout the facilities in the common areas and outdoors. And you have samples of those 2 signs in the package and the materials that I provided. Next item is distribution of the Oklahoma County reopening guidelines to all employees. That is a 3-page document that is also attached to your package with generalized guidance. It's 2 main categories. The first section, the first page, is a list of things that Oklahoma County government has done to protect employees and customers in the facilities. A lot of those, again, are related to Mr. Monroe and his staff and the activities that they have performed, but other measures as well, enhanced sanitation measures, etc. The second page is geared towards the actual employee responsibilities. We felt like it was important to put a copy of this document in the hand of every employee returning and every employee on site so that we're sharing expectations and so that we're clearly communicating what the individual responsibility would be for each individual employee as well as what's taking place at the facilities. And the final item is include items as approved by the Board of County Commissioners, being the items in this package, on the Oklahoma County website, and encourage all elected officials to include guidance on their specific Oklahoma County websites. We certainly realize that if someone were to want to do business, say with the Treasurer's office, to come downtown to do business, they may go online and look for any specific guidance that may be applicable. So if we have this information not only on the county homepage, but also accessed through each of the individual elected officials' websites and other places similar, we have a much greater potential impact of getting the information to the people who may be coming downtown and help prepare them for their business transactions or whatever their business is at Oklahoma County and particularly in the downtown campus. Any questions or discussion on those items?
I have concerns about the elevator traffic. I appreciate what people are trying to do with this thing, but as a practical implementation, I think that will all but shut down the courthouse to limit it to 2 people per car. I guess it's a person's elective whether they want to wait and try to hitch another elevator, but my guess is between 9 floors, a person not getting on the first floor will probably never have the fortune of catching a car that didn't already have 2 occupants on it. On a normal day, that elevator would carry 10 people a ride. I mean, just as a matter of necessity, and that's if we don't have one of the cars down. I've been advocating for signage for indicating where our hidden stairwells are because I don't think it's very noticeable to the general public. But even still, I think people, particularly wearing masks, might find it hard to breathe as they're huffing and puffing up a bunch of stairwells if they're not particularly in great shape. So, and obviously for disability concerns, that's not an option anyway for those that are affected by that. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I think it will throw the courts in complete chaos if we have that as a mandate.
Thank you, Commissioner Mon. We've had a great deal of discussion and consternation over that very issue, and I certainly agree with you. 2 persons per car ridership is definitely a challenge, and there are additional factors. I'm not saying I disagree with you at all because I do fully agree with that, and the traffic is a significant issue. Encouragement of the use of stairways, staggered court dockets. Presiding Judge Elliott has done an excellent job of providing guidance for staggering the numbers, reducing the numbers over there, which will help. Additional contributing factors, again, the use of the stairs. We know there will also be times when people won't be able to do 2. For example, if somebody comes to conduct business and they happen to have a couple of children with them, obviously we can't shut that entire car down for that. Your 9th floor, 9 floors of stairs, I certainly agree with that. There's very few people that want to do that at any time. We're open to recommendation. The key there, and the emphasis again on the PBA elevators, particularly the one from the tunnel
into the annex and the one in ICB is the 6 feet recommendation for social distancing.
I know why. And I know too that there will be no way to accommodate that in the pool of people gathering on the first floor waiting for a car that will only have one other person on it so they can enter. It would be impossible to social distance, I think, on that first floor. I appreciate that the judges are working on trying to stagger rather the dockets, and I'm sure that will help, but I've stood down there in the middle of a lot of people waiting on an elevator, and again, this is if we can keep them all operating, and it's amazing they're operating completely good when we don't have people here. And it's an indication of what Keith's always talked about is that, you know, it's these users that have created jams in the doors and people trying to save an elevator door from closing when it's practically closed and stuff like that, no doubt. But again, we fully expect that that's going to happen again as soon as people return, right, Keith? So what if we're down to 1 elevator? We don't have time to reconvene this body to put another contingency in.
Does it help at all by moving employees to the jail elevator? To where that would be an employee only, that would alleviate some of the stress on those. Now, the other part of that is the stress would be the public. Now, from my understanding, we're talking about having deputies, and stop me if I'm wrong, but PD Taylor came in yesterday, Sheriff Taylor, and said that he was looking at 25 additional. Is that correct?
Yes.
So is that 1 per floor? And if he's got 1 deputy or 2 deputies per floor, is he going to be there to ensure the social distancing is enacted and that only 2 people go per elevator? What's the method there?
Yeah, I hear 2 questions in there. One, it would provide assistance to use that jail elevator, although it's going to be minimal.
Right.
Particularly going to depend upon the traffic flow of persons here from the jail. Obviously, that would take precedence.
Yeah.
So while it may provide a little bit of relief, I think it would be marginal. In regard to your comment about Sheriff Taylor, he and I have had a discussion, and you're correct, that is a number he did mention previous meeting. He's also requested that I provide him with a breakdown of what type of changes, what modifications, the excerpts, the entries, those type of things that we're planning on implementing here. And my intent was to provide that information to him immediately following this meeting after approval of the BOCC of whatever modifications we may be making. He alluded to, I won't commit him, but he alluded to there may be additional personnel that are available. He has put out notification to his reservists and to his deputies that there is overtime available, which obviously would be compensable through the CARES Act funding as well as through disaster funding should we go that route. So there are greater opportunities to expand those staffing, although I won't speak for Sheriff Taylor. He did imply that additional staffing would be available, and I share your concern, particularly Monday, early in the week, transition. I think having a large contingency just to assist the public is certainly going to be in our favor.
And he thinks he has the existing staff to do that, or he'll have to hire?
I believe he'll be looking at paying overtime and compensating reservists at a minimum.
And so if we did form this restriction on the elevator cars, is there going to be like a Six Flags type ride amusement railing where everybody gets in line so that we don't have cheaters who cut and create consternation down there? I mean, so you would have enough, I mean, how would we control the mayhem? Because when we have a pool of 50 people down there waiting on one of the 3 cars, it's just a mad dash. It's like trying to get on the New York subway. I mean, they just stampede to the one that comes open.
I completely agree with you. As far as any type of guidance or assistance for people in that regard, one of the key elements, and granted, I fully understand this is a big piece that would be asking for the public to exercise patience, people to come early, particularly if they are set for a specific time. Monday is going to be a significant challenge. And as I said at the onset, our key concern with the moving of people is the simple traffic flow, the routes and patterns, which is why we're recommending different exits be opened and some one-way travel as opposed to two-way traffic in some doorways.
And the bottleneck issue is something we've discussed at length, multiple meetings. I see no way, to be honest with you, no effective way to limit the number of people that are going to congregate, particularly on the first floor, elevator lobby, through the security area, and even out on the front sidewalk. To me, that's going to be a key bottleneck period, as well as in the courthouse on the first floor, which is why we were recommending the opening of the east doors, et cetera, and bringing people up the alley.
What about with the railing? Is that a possibility, or does that affect fire marshal standards?
Temporary railings, I don't believe would have fire marshal considerations, to be honest with you. They can be easily moved out of the way. If we were doing similar to the ribbons at the entrance on the first floor of the annex, those type things, I don't believe there would be an issue with that from a fire marshal perspective.
I would think you're just going to have to do something like that to corral people sort of for the deputy. If there's only one, I mean, he or she would be practically powerless over the stampede that rushes for those doors on a normal day. And I'm not even sure that would work, but.
I agree.
What's the likelihood of people wearing masks?
Can't give you
Do we have any idea? I mean, remind me, is there a requirement for people to wear masks in this, or is it strongly recommended? Are we giving masks if?
Very strongly recommended. I think the terminology of you need to wear a mask is something that we need to do. In working with the district attorney's office, there are certain limitations, certain elements in regard to specific requirement to wear a mask, and potentially denying access is obviously the first point if someone's not wearing a mask. I have a somewhat significant supply of masks available, although obviously limited, for persons who do arrive without a mask. We can accommodate that for a certain period of time. And that's part of this plan, is to provide those for people who have not. But it's obviously our hope, and we're trying to take the positive stance, as you well know because you've been engaged in the discussion, that people will in fact do the right thing. They will be wearing a mask when they're out in public, much less coming to a county facility or coming to a meeting or something. We are hoping, I have no way to gauge it, but we're certainly hoping that most people will comply. It'd be wonderful if everyone complied. That would be simplicity.
Well, I mean, if everybody complied with the mask, if everybody wore a mask, if you and I had one, it's less than 1% that there's any transmission between the two of us for that. So on an elevator full of 10 people, the odds are pretty low that any transmission would happen if everybody was wearing a mask. So it seems to me like if we want to move people up and down elevators, we could require masks of everybody to come into the building, and then everybody could ride the elevators with as many people as they choose to. But there is question about whether or not we can actually
That was my question for the DA.
require the public to wear masks. I will tell you that DPS is doing it. I will tell you that state capitol is doing it. And it seems to me like they have the Attorney General looking at it pretty closely. So,
Mr. Barnes,
Ma'am.
if we were to require everyone coming into the building to wear a mask, and you said you have some masks that you can give out, but not enough for several months, aren't we able to purchase PPE with our CARES dollars and use those throughout the remainder of the year to give out to people when they come in?
Yes, ma'am. The guidance I've read and reread and reread does clearly indicate that that would be an allowable expense.
Right. And we know that jury trials are canceled through June and July. We know that there's no jury trial in July anyway, but so, and the courts are opening up Monday. Is there going to be, I don't anticipate, I don't anticipate there being normal traffic because there will be no jury trials. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. That combined with other efforts by Judge Elliott and others to stagger schedules, to reduce the number of cases per docket, et cetera. There's several measures in place that he has ordered that are going to help reduce those numbers, certainly not eliminate them. And there are several paradigms associated with the courthouse that are going to need adjustment as well. time spent in the courthouse by attorneys preparing for cases, doing meetings in the courthouse, whether in the hallway or whatever. A lot of those things are simply not going to be advisable. Those may have to move outdoors as long as weather allows. So there's a lot of variables. I think a key overriding factor, and both you gentlemen were alluding to it, come Monday and subsequent to that, there's going to have to be a great deal of patience exhibited by everyone, including county employees who are probably going to have to step up, provide encouragement and guidance for people coming through the doors, even though that's not your normal routine duty, but also just coworker to coworker and all the interactions, the countless interactions that are going to be taking place in all these facilities and out on the street in front, et cetera. A significant amount of patience is going to have to be employed by everyone.
Right. Because we are certainly not back to normal in any form or fashion, and may not ever get back to what we wish was normal.
That's correct.
To encourage employees and people coming to the building to take the stairs, like what Commissioner Mon said, can we add signage that shows where the stairs are, and maybe something that says, if you are able to take the stairs, we strongly encourage it?
Yes, ma'am. I'm getting a nod of approval from Mr. Monroe. I believe that can be done easily.
Can it be done relatively quickly?
Right. And I know your recommendation for 2 people per elevator in was it the annex and the courthouse?
Yes, ma'am.
And then 1 person in the ICB. With how much would it change if we put 3 or 4 people in an elevator? I understand that you probably picked 2 for a reason, because it really does allow people to social distance, but to find a compromise with what Commissioner Mon is concerned about, is it going to put people at risk if we limit it to 3 or 4?
To be honest with you, those guidelines that we have brought to you are based more on social distancing than anything.
Right.
However, people are wearing masks. Mr. Davidson has statistics that indicate if you and I are both face-to-face wearing masks, there's about a 1% chance of transmission. I think that factor, if people are wearing appropriate PPE, plus the simple fact that people do not have to get on that elevator at that point in time. I understand some people will be tied to schedules, maybe appointments that are set, particularly in the courthouse, dockets, those kinds of things, and they need to meet some time parameters. Hopefully people will be coming early. But if I'm here to conduct routine business in the treasurer's or the assessor's office or something like that, and I see an elevator packed, if I'm not on a set schedule, I'm going to back off and wait. So again, patience, flexibility, all these things are going to play.
Madam Chair, don't you think too is a restriction that's not practical?
Well, I don't know if practicality is our concern when we're trying to keep the public safe. I know that putting 2 in an elevator doesn't seem practical, but I think we're having to do things during this pandemic that don't feel practical because we're trying to keep the public safe. I think if we encourage people to use the stairs as much as possible, I don't know if I'm kind of along the lines with Miles that we require everyone to wear a mask, especially if you're using an elevator. And maybe if we are able to require everyone to wear a mask, then we don't have to do the 2-person per elevator rule.
Interesting question. Can we require masks on elevators only? If you're going to pack an elevator, you need to be wearing a mask. If not, stairs are located to the east and the west. So that alleviates transmission issues in close quarters. That alleviates transportation issues going up and down. We could make 2 elevators for people wearing masks and make 1 elevator for those that are not wearing masks.
Although the provision of masks is actually a contributing factor, and I agree with that. And district attorney.
That's what I was saying. If you did the 2 eastern elevators for people wearing masks, you could put stuff the Volkswagen with as many people as you'd like to. On the west side, it's 2 people per car. There's only one car, if I recall correctly. 2 people in that car if you're not going to wear a mask. So in other words, if you're ADA, if you whatever, and you don't have a mask and you don't want to wear one, you can use that western elevator.
Is the controls possible to control that elevator separate as, because the way it works right now, you hit the button, one of the 3 comes down. It's not limited to one side of the wall or the other.
It would take the sheriff deputy actually sitting there.
I know, but you could have an elevator setting on the 3rd floor and they can't get it to call down because it keeps shipping the other one down. That's why I'm asking about the controls.
Yeah, that's true.
I agree with the thoughts you have there also, Miles. I'm just not sure that being able to control or to navigate that on the 1st floor, well, you're wearing a mask, so you go over here, you're not wearing a mask. That, I'm not sure if we would really.
Creating separate lines.
Exactly.
Okay.
And with the district attorney's assistance and guidance, if we can in fact require a mask for ridership on an elevator, then based on the statistic that you like to cite and other guidance, then we could certainly open up the number of riders, maybe double it to 4 or whatever. If in fact they were required, we could require mask use on that elevator.
The elevators
Mr. Monroe. Go ahead.
The elevators can be programmed to run independently of one another.
What's that mean?
That means when you push a button, you can operate a car independently, but it would require programming. Currently, when you push a button to call an elevator, one of the available 3 will respond. They can be programmed to operate individually.
Okay. So I'm looking at the document right now. There's nothing in here that mentions requiring the public or staff to wear masks, correct?
That's correct. Not a
Okay.
requirement.
Okay.
The signage pieces of this obviously addresses members of the public, which is a greater issue. I believe we have guidance, correct me if I'm wrong, from the district attorney's office. We can require employees to wear a mask, and in the employee guidance, we put specific wording in there that allows them, encourages them to wear a mask anytime they're in contact with the public or conducting business with the public or coworkers in close proximity, with the potential exception if there is a barrier constructed or if adequate social distancing is in place. So there's a little bit of a variable. In other words, if you were in your office by yourself, or maybe Mr. Blau came in to visit, you're maintaining social distancing, it would not be a requirement that you wore a mask in that environment.
Right.
If interacting with the public without a barrier in close proximity, then we would.
Okay.
That's part of the employee responsibility piece of the reopening document that will go to every employee.
Okay. Any other comments or questions or suggestions?
Mr. Warren, have you had any contact with the judges about this or about how the courts operate?
Thanks.
Nay, she's plugged in.
Judge Elliott and I meet every
That
morning.
mic's not working.
Judge Elliott and I meet pretty much every morning, sometimes twice a day. We are staggering the courts, but there's still Monday. There's going to be a lot of business. Now, I haven't seen any of this. I wasn't given a copy of this, so I haven't had a chance to review what you're trying to do. I would like to review it and go over it, and then maybe we could not decide this moment, come back at 2 o'clock or something. So this is going to be just our employees alone, and you haven't even talked about the freight elevator. That could be controlled, and employees could ride the freight elevator. If you said they all have to wear masks, so you could do something like that. But I would need a little time to review this, because I haven't even seen it.
Do you have any guesstimates how many people we're expecting next week?
I think we'll be full. I think we're going to have civil evictions, civil filings. I think that they're going to be bringing, we're making special rooms just to do stacks. We're going to have people bringing stacks of eviction notices and people that have not been able to do work for a month. These lawyers have not been, they're already wanting to come in, the criminal lawyers are already coming in, looking at cases and trying to get ahead of it. We're doing a soft opening right now and allowing them to come in one at a time, checking in down the door. But next week, we're open for business. And there is going to be crowds, and they are going to be lined up, which You said about a railing, it makes sense. You could use the salt railing and run it all the way down the sidewalk, make people like on that post. As you and I both know, our employees will follow our guidelines, but the public and the attorneys, they're here to do business, and they're at a schedule. With the courts, it's different than people going to the treasurer's office or people going to the assessor's office. They have a timeline. They have to get to court. So they're trying to get there quick, and a lot of them don't show up 5 minutes before the court case. And they're trying to get over there to the courthouse. The witnesses, the same way. We have 30 cases on Monday that I know of in one courtroom, and that'll happen probably before lunch. There's 30 lawyers. There's 30, you don't know how many people will be there. The DAs will be there, the attorneys will be there, the public defenders will be there. We'll already have our clerks in there, we'll have the judges in there, so we're gonna have courtrooms. They're gonna limit to 10 on some of the small ones, and then maybe a few more in the bigger courtrooms. But
Keith, how many trips can an elevator make up and down in an hour's time? I mean, just approximate. What do you figure?
I can't, I have no way of answering that. It depends on the ridership and who gets off on what floor.
Well, but if they get off on an average of 4 floors out of the 9, I'm saying with multiple people, obviously, if there's only 2 people on there, but
I'd say anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes.
so, I mean, we could do, I'm just doing the arithmetic here. I think it's not even possible to pump up the number of people. I think you said on average we have 1,000 to 1,300 paid customers a day in the parking garage. Is that right? On a normal schedule. And that doesn't include people who take mass transit, park on the streets or whatever. So, I mean, if you've got 1,000 people a day trying to get up these elevators limited to it, you can't get the elevators to move fast enough up and down the floor in an 8-hour period of time, let alone getting people to court by 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m.
and we're going to be paying tickets. We have not done that. We postponed the tickets. Now, that'll be held on the first floor. And we've made plans, my staff put together a plan, so we'll bring the cashiers down there so they don't have to come to the 4th floor to pay. But still, that right there would probably be 500, 600 people.
I'm just saying this not to try to be a stinker here, but I just think it's a disaster waiting to happen. And you're just people are going to have panic.
Hundreds of them.
Yeah. They got to take off work. They thought for an hour, and this is taking hours just to get to a line to get on an elevator.
We've not been, as a committee, we've not been apprised of the guidance from other elected officials, i.e. we're not familiar at all with the pay scenario that you're setting up on the first floor. That is certainly a potential issue because of the number of people that are going to back up waiting to get in there to pay, because we know you're maintaining social distancing inside that area where they pay.
Well, what we're doing there is actually benefiting the building. It makes more sense than having trying to go up the elevators. They're still going to go in that courtroom. That is a courtroom, and that's where they hear for the tickets.
Sure.
So they're going to be there, and they're going to be sitting. Then they have to pay for the tickets. So what we did, which made real good common sense, was we set it up so once the judge rules, they can go right straight to the back and pay. So
sure,
that won't be a line. It'll be just boom, boom, boom. But upstairs, waiting for that elevator would be an issue. The elevator is going to be the biggest issue we have. If we do 2 people to an elevator, it just won't work. And we should not open fully. As Commissioner said, these are not normal times. But at the same time, if we're going to open for business, then we're going to open for business.
And the 2 of the biggest courtrooms are on the 7 and 8. So, you're going to have the criminal dockets going there. It's not like a handful of attorneys going for a civil case on the top floors. It's just the opposite. We pump most of the people up to the top floors. So,
we have 35 judges. We have, I believe it's 31 of them here. 31 judges here in this. They'll all be hearing cases. Then as soon as we get through this first couple of weeks of civil through July, when we go into August, they're all going to hear criminal cases. They're all going to switch over because we're so far behind. We are behind. And Judge Elliott's going to try to change that a little bit. We have to. That's what we do.
So I think to find a compromise, if we don't want to limit elevators to 2 people, then can we just require masks and elevators run as normal? And we just, if you're going to get in the elevator, you have to wear a mask. I think I see that as our simplest solution if we want to get people moving in and out of the elevators as fast as possible.
I think you're absolutely correct. I think that's a great idea. And then it's, well, and the DA is saying that they haven't looked at it very closely, Commissioner. Yeah, that Carrie hadn't looked at it closely. And Aaron's. So here's the deal, though. The district attorneys offer us advice. And the advice is to keep us as close to the zero risk factor as possible. I understand that. But at some point, practicality and the safety of not only our employees, but the public, that's a huge risk. And that's a risk that we're going to have to take. Either we require individuals to wear masks inside of elevators to go up and down, or we don't. And are we willing to take that risk of asking individuals to wear? No, we've got that.
Oh, we can't provide that.
We understand that.
We understand jurors that we've summoned.
Just an opinion, but if you treated the elevator car like a contamination box, would your thinking be any different?
That's a fair point, Mr. Monroe. I have to agree with Miles. I think I'm willing to take the risk of whatever legal issues the DA has with requiring masks. I think it is in the public's best interest and in the best interest of the county. If we're going to put 10 people on an elevator, they need to have a mask on.
And that's just for the elevator, as far as I'm concerned. If they get off the elevator and they don't want to wear it, okay.
Right.
We do have
going to move people around efficiently, as Commissioner Mon says, practically. We've got to do something.
We do have a request into the district attorney's office specific to requirements to wear a mask.
So what happens if they don't?
What happens if they don't wear a mask?
The deputy arrest them?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say the deputy says to them, sir or ma'am, it's required to wear a mask to get on the elevator. I guess that's all they can do. I don't know. I don't know why someone wouldn't wear a mask. I don't know why someone would really, it's for their own safety.
If they don't have one, that would be a reason.
We're not wearing masks.
And
Well, we're going to supply them with a mask. I thought.
We can. No.
Miles, we can or we cannot.
Really I don't.
We've already made the request once, the answer came back that Miles.
Our office made the request if we could give masks to the public, and the answer is no. We cannot use tax dollars to give masks to the, I'll be glad to send all of you all the opinions we got.
You can't use ad valorem tax dollars for that. And I believe that's why we have CARES Act.
Right.
So
I think that you need to ask that specific question because that's different than the question I asked.
Yes, and that's the question we have. Ms. Etherington made it clear to us in our latest meeting that we needed some specifics. This is in great deal tied to a formal plan, not just a broad statement. Can we wear a mask, make them wear a mask, not? She needed specifics of a plan to implement mask provision, mask use, et cetera. In that vein, Mr. Blau and staff in D1 have prepared some questions, and they identified several funding streams to include general fund, which we know is an issue. The court funds is an issue. However, CARES Act reimbursement is a direct quote out of that paperwork and documentation that is compensable through that. The Strategic National Stockpile that I currently have limited access to, which is the masks that I have available currently, came from that Strategic National Stockpile. That is a federal through the state piece. It does not involve local tax funds or any of those issues. That's identified as a potential funding source, if you will. So there are multiple pieces of the funding, which obviously are going to require clarification. Some have already been clarified. Others, the question has been asked formally, and we will hopefully receive clarification in that regard very quickly.
Have you thought about, on the mask issue, have you thought about the courtroom since the judges are state employees, not county employees?
We have certainly thought about and talked about, including with Judge Elliott, the provision of masks, the issue of whether they're a state employee or a federal employee or a county or a city or whatever. To us, the provision of masks with multiple funding streams is not an issue.
I wouldn't think it would be, but it's been brought up. And
No, that's a non-issue for us.
And to be clear, on District 1, the question, it has,
That is correct. We actually assisted the committee, the Emergency Response Committee assisted in the formulation of that question, identifying those components, and Mr. Blau chose to offer his services to present that to
the
them.
mask protects our staff. So when we give a mask to somebody, we're not giving it to them to protect them. We're giving it to protect the people around them.
Right. Right. Well, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the recommendations of the Emergency Response Committee with the change and the amendment that we remove the elevator requirements of 2-person to an elevator, and that we require that if you enter an elevator, you wear a mask.
Okay, no limit, just that you have to wear a mask on the
Correct.
elevators.
Correct.
That's only in the elevators. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'll second.
I would encourage that we have everyone wear them anyway all the time, but
Well, I'm just talking about for our monitoring purposes and where we're going to dispatch a deputy to have to be, for the deputy's zero focus, they're going to be concentrating on making sure everybody who enters an elevator car is wearing a mask, not chasing people down hallways and into courtrooms and into different offices and stuff like that.
I think taking the air of encouragement and assisting folks, whether employees or the public,
Yeah.
is not an enforcement action. This is recommendations for prudent protection of personal and also employees.
Protect and serve.
Yes.
All right, Chairman,
So-
you got a second.
I'm sorry, say that again?
You got a motion in a second.
Oh, I didn't, I'm sorry, who seconded? I did not hear it.
I
Mr.
did.
Mon,
Okay. So there is a motion and a second. Is there any other comments or suggestions or anything? Okay, so there's a motion and a second to accept the recommendations of the Emergency Response Committee, except removing, let me pull this back up. Item 7, which limits the number of people in an elevator and instead requires people in an elevator to wear a mask. So there's a motion and a second. Commissioner Mon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
aye.
And I will vote aye. Thank you, Mr. Barnes, for putting all of these together and for the whole committee. I know you guys met and talked and really tried to figure out the best recommendation. So I really appreciate it.
Hey,
Appreciate your support, Commissioner. Mr. Davis.
Mr. Barnes, there was one question brought up to my meetings with the judges yesterday after our marathon. We're allowing people to come in on the north entrance
Of the
of the
annex.
courthouse.
Yes, they will be. People that are in the alley or people that come through
Are we allowing them to exit out of the north entrance?
of the courthouse?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
with the additional exit out west
Yeah.
and entry on the east.
okay, just needed to clarify that. So I wasn't sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Item 25, engineering, Mr. Trumbo.
Yeah, I need to strike this week. We're not quite ready for final. The project is going well, but I'll bring it back to you.
Move to strike.
Second.
Okay. Okay, motion and second to strike. Commissioner Mon,
Aye.
Mr. Davidson,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. MIS items 26 through 31. Is someone here to speak from MIS?
Yeah, Rich is on the line. Whether or not he can hear us is another question. He's on mute right now.
Rich, are you able to hear us? Well, it looks like these are regular contracts for, I believe item 26 is Oracle support. Looks like item 27 is for a scanner used in the DA's office.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
hello.
Sorry about that. It wouldn't let me unmute for some reason. I apologize. Yeah, these are all contract renewals. There's nothing new in any of these items.
Move it.
I'll second. Commissioner Mon, item 26, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. Item 27.
Move it.
Second.
Commissioner Mon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
Aye.
And I will vote aye as well. Item 28.
Move the item.
Second.
Commissioner Mon?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. Item 29.
The item.
Second.
Commissioner Mon?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Item 30.
Move the item.
Second.
Commissioner Mon?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. And item 31.
Move the item.
Second.
Commissioner Mon?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. Thank you, Rich. Okay, item 32 is from our Planning Commission. I believe Mr. Gammon is on the line. Would you like to give us some information?
Yes, Commissioners. First of all, I'd like to know if you hear me or not.
Yes, we can.
Good. Basically, this is an item that went before the Planning Commission back in March of this year, where the gentleman wanted to rezone his property to commercial, local commercial district in order to establish a nail salon on his property. He has 5 acres and he will take a tiny portion of his property and rezone it to CL, commercial, so that his wife could operate a nail salon. There were many protests. One in particular, Mrs. Kennedy, who owned the property across the street from him, she has greater than 20% of the frontage. And as you know, in order for it to be significant, 20% or greater frontage ownership is considered significant. And in this case, whatever the Board of County Commissioners decide, it has to be unanimous on this case. He wants to establish this nail salon, but he also had built constructed the building, set up the parking and everything without getting a permit in this case. The office is already built and ready to go, but we have a significant protest. And the Planning Commission requests that you deny this particular zoning because they think it is inappropriate for the neighborhood. It's a residential neighborhood, and it is very inappropriate to have a commercial business on that property.
Well, I'm mostly troubled that he proceeded without even trying to work through the process anyway. So I'll move to deny it.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gammon. Okay, there's a motion and a second to deny. Commissioner Mon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
Aye.
And I will vote aye as well. Okay, item 33, purchasing. Is Chantel available? Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning. This is just a standard agreement to lease a copier.
Move the item.
Second.
Commissioner Mon,
Aye.
Mr. Davidson,
Aye.
and I will vote aye as well. Item 34, if no one is here from the sheriff's office, I will move to strike. This was another version of that BJA grant that we have already approved.
Second.
Commissioner Mon,
Aye.
Mr. Davidson,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. Item 35 are our blanket purchase orders. Ms. Boso, there are no changes, right?
Move the blanket.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second. Commissioner Mon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. And then item 36.
This is a recommendation for award for CW 21016 for environmental safety shoes. Invitations to bid were sent. 2 bids were received from Gelco and Red Wing Shoes. Based upon consultation, I am recommending award to lowest and best, Gelco Clothing Shoes and Red Wing Shoes. On a particular section A, 1A for steel-toed rubber boots. This was evaluated based on multiple department needs, so this is the yards as well as facilities. I'm recommending award to the Service Boot brand and also Red Wing Boot brand. This will allow for the different styles of boots to accommodate the different needs.
Move the recommendations of the purchasing agent.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve. Commissioner Mon?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
Aye.
And I will vote aye as well. And item 37. I believe is, let's see, opening of the bids.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. We have 1 bid opening today. Bid number 120052441 for District 3 roadway chip seal project. 1 is unknown. Which is no bid. Second is from Vance Brothers, Inc. That concludes the opening.
Move they be tabulated and returned.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Commissioner Mon?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Item 38 are claims, assuming there are no changes.
Second.
Commissioner Mon?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
All Miles works. Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. Commissioner comments, D2, Commissioner Mon, any comments?
I don't have anything further.
Miles?
As a civic citizen, my son is at home watching our meeting, so I would say hi to him and his lovely teacher, my wife, and apologize to having him sit through this. So, thank you.
Is there any new business? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Commissioner Mon?
Aye.
Miles?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. Thank you, everyone. I do believe we also have PBA.
Give me 1 second here, Commissioner Bloomer, and I'll have it up.
Okay.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. Okay, we will call this meeting of the Public Buildings Authority to order. It's 10:33, Wednesday, May 13th. Let's see. I'm sorry. Commissioner Mon is present, and I myself am present as well. Commissioner Calvi is not present. Notice of this meeting was properly posted on May 11th, 2020. And item number 1 is to determine a time and place where we will reconvene if we get disconnected. So I will move that we reconvene at 1 o'clock today if we do get disconnected.
I'll second that, but I'm not in, it's not allowing me in to this meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll wait.
All right, it finally did. All right,
Okay.
second.
I will vote aye. Commissioner Mon?
Aye.
Okay. Item number 2 is approval of our minutes from our May 4th meeting. Any recommended changes?
Move approval of the minutes.
I will second, and I will vote aye. Commissioner Mon?
Aye.
Item number 3 is a contract between OMES and PBA for a new roof at the Lincoln Building. Mr. Monroe.
That's right. You'll find attached the agreements and associated costs and documents for that effort. $841,000 to Oklahoma Roofing, and also a $29,408 capped fee paid to OMES.
I'll gladly move this item.
Mr. Monroe, can you give us an idea of how long you think this project will take?
Depending on the weather and the work schedule the contractor has, 4 months perhaps. Keep in mind that the roofing contractor is working now in concert with the HVAC mechanical contractor with roofing, curbing, and that kind of thing. So it's a cooperative effort between those two entities.
Okay.
4 months.
Okay, thank you. And I will gladly second this item. I'm very happy to see this come to life. So there's a motion and a second. I will vote aye. Commissioner Mon?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Monroe. Item 4 is our claims. Any changes?
Move the claims.
I will second, and I will vote aye as well. Commissioner Mon?
Aye.
Any board comments? Any new business? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
I'll second, and I will vote aye. Commissioner Mon?
Aye.